I think probably two. One that you know very well, Chris Hughton, because he was the first black player to play for Ireland. Being brought up in Dublin and played in the position I played, and had the same haircut. You wouldn't know that now.
Obviously,
I had a little afro at the time. I was very impressed with it, but it hasn't lasted. That was huge. And then there was a black striker called Clive Best, played for West Ham. And I remember going to London as a kid with my mum, and we saw the picture, and I ended up getting a West Ham shirt. I was only young at that time, very young.
Giving you the eyes there.
But I don't know what happened to the shirt, but I just remember it really stood out to me as role models. But I think we've all probably had the same, Carl Lewis, and there's so many sportsmen, not just football people. I think, and I liked my rugby at the time, and that. But for me, probably Chris Hughton was the biggest one, because I wanted to be a professional footballer. Yeah. I wanted to play for Ireland. And when I could see someone that had done it already, whether he was born in Ireland or not, it was big for me, About you?
Massive.
Anita,
you go. Oh, okay.
Yeah, go on.
I think, I agree. I think I looked to loads of role models in other sports as well.
Yes.
Like, the Williams sisters, and of course, Denise Lewis, like massive, idol for me. But in sport, I think I first met Rachel Yankee when I was like 13, 14. And she took one of my training sessions, and, I knew she played for Arsenal, and then she was an England player, and I was just like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And, she's of mixed heritage, but her other half was Ghanaian, so I had that like connection. So, she was like the player that I was just like, oh, I want to play with her one day.
Good player as well, exciting player, wasn't she? Exciting.
Brilliant, exciting, like silky player.
Yeah, lefty, wasn't she? Yeah.
And I think, like we all say, it's massive to have people who are like role models that you see, that make you believe that you can like reach that path, and for me that was definitely Rachel.
Yes. Yeah.
Now you mentioned sports people, so through my uncle, he played sort of grassroots football, Saturday League football for men. He played basketball sort of every Monday, and at that time Michael Jordan was coming through with the balls, Scottie Pippen. So that in the sports side of it, obviously hit the him, and you've got Ben Johnson, Carl Lewis, like you said, but on a footballing point of view, was coming of age was sort of John Barnes going to Liverpool. And I actually played at the younger age as a left midfielder, even though I was right-footed. But Liverpool were that team everyone liked. I didn't support them anyway, but it was more seeing John Barnes playing for Liverpool. Yeah. And that's one of those first ones. But then I actually started playing as a centre midfielder, then as a forward. And then he burst onto the scene, Ian Wright, and then that was it. But seeing John Barnes like primary school days in the playground and things like that, it was obviously everything that he went through, you sort of look and go, but just the ability that he had, obviously the shorts as well, the tight shorts.
He was like, you want to get
the tight shorts, you're thinking, surely someone's got to get bigger shorts.
No, they weren't all they were. They weren't that great when you look back on it. You never had to go through that. But I just remember it was like Liam Brady, the Arsenal, player was one for me as well. So you think, the black people in sport that inspired you, what he did as well. Do you know what I mean? There's just so many when we're looking at all the games we love, wasn't it? There's that many people that would do it,
And it's just like you see is that from that sort of John Barnes moment and that famous Arsenal victory at Anfield, and you see Michael Thomas, Paul Davis, they're players that have sort of been through the similar things with John Barnes and what they've gone on to achieve, and they're people that we all know now from playing the game, and you can sort of say that I used to look up to you. And I actually played with Michael Thomas at Wimbledon for a year, and you just think,
what a good guy. I played with him as well, and a real good guy and stuff, and he quite humble.
Yeah, exactly that.
You know what I mean? You're saying he was kind of lucky to do it. I was thinking, hold on a minute. Something like that. It's just so many, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the ones that just jump out at you straight away are maybe the ones that most important to you at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Will we jump on to another
far away
question? Hope this is an easy one. No. What does Black history look like in your family?
For me, I'd see it as, I want it to be a legacy, really, in as far back as my family goes, but as far as back as I know, in terms of my nan and granddad, what they'd done for my aunts and uncles, part of the Windrush, my mum coming over as part of the Windrush, and giving them things to or trying to give them a better start, better life, and then that's being knocked down to me and my brother and my cousins, and it's now down to our kids to try and take on what we've had, and it's always trying to be thankful for the opportunities, but also trying to give the opportunities for our youngers, not just within the family, but the youngers who obviously we work with on a day-to-day. But for me, it's just that's what it looks like for me, a legacy and being able to be given the opportunity.
Yeah, for me, it's a similar thing. I think it's also the continuation of your history. Do you know what I mean? Like you're adding that next part, that next story within our own chapter. And like you said, your children's chapter in their lives. And for me, it's being proud of my culture as well and maintaining that, throughout my family, and feeling like it's bigger than just myself. I feel like you represent your community, and it's not just our race necessarily, but, where you grew up and all the people that have helped you along that path. And yeah, like you, my parents were immigrants to England, and I've seen what they've done to try and give me and my siblings like better opportunities and all of those things, but also just what they do for their families, like my grandparents and everything. So that makes me feel really proud, like just to see how far we within our own family has come in terms of educating ourselves and getting these other opportunities. And for me as a footballer, it's you want to inspire the next generation of young people as well to go, you can have opportunities if you go for them, and hopefully you have the right support as well to help you get there.
There's a real kind of a thank them, for maybe what they had to put through and generations ago, isn't it? Where you kind of think, wow, didn't really realise you couldn't do that, or that wouldn't happen, or there was signs up, or there was this and that. My family's totally different from really, because I was born, in England. I left England at 3 months and was brought up in Ireland by a single parent who was white, and a couple of uncles who were white lived in the house. So I was never brought up in school. It was 400 kids, 2 black kids in it, and it was me and my brother. So that was it. So I haven't really been brought up in that kind of environment or culture of real Irish. And I think that later on, as your life goes on, you want to know where you're from, what's happened, and where your roots are. And I remember my youngest daughter coming to see me. She's brilliant, and she said, "What am I again, Dad?" And I'm saying, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, am I white? Am I black? Or what am I?" You know what I mean? I was trying to explain to them, whereabouts, is your dad from? And I never really fell into that Jamaican thing because my mom was really Irish and closed off. And then later on in life, I probably learned more.
Yeah. It's learning on the way, isn't it? Yeah.
And then playing and learning on the way. So I haven't been brought up with that. I wouldn't have known what it was like to be in a class with 20 black kids in it and 20 white kids, or playing in a team. When I played football, I was the only black kid in a team, which had a big kind of impact on me playing them, because I think when I think about my family, I think about mum, and I think, wow, you did well bringing 3 black kids up in 60s, 70s in Ireland and stuff like that. So I was very, very proud of that. But now when I look about it and I know about my history, and my kids are interested in it, and the people that I look up to on their stories, and I think it's sharing journeys, isn't it? One of the themes of Black History Month this month, and I think it's huge because everyone's different story.
Yeah, definitely.
But it always comes back to what we are.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, my mum always said, and that's why I always say family. I say, whatever, you get in trouble in school or do whatever, and they'd say, "Mum, they said this, they said black this, black that." I said, "Well, sorry, son, you are."
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
you are black. Yeah. So that's it. Anything else I said. So that's when I think about family, that's what I think my mum's saying, sticking to it, this is what it is, and it's part of our family history. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So that's me. I'll go on about Ireland a lot more, but I'm waiting for the Irish mum. So we'll do that. But when
I'll jump in there. That's right. How did you feel to represent your country?
I had 2 representations. So I actually, from my mum's side is from Barbados, dad's side is Jamaican, obviously born in England. So growing up, the majority of my upbringing was with my mum, single parent from the Barbados side. So I grew up around the Barbados side of the family a lot. But the opportunity playing football came with England first. And I remember at a stage, not long after the 1998 World Cup, when Jamaica got there, we had Marcus Gale, Robbie Earl were part of that squad, and they used to have a lot of trips away. And then at the time, our owner, I won't name his name, sort of said, those that are dual heritage, that they're not allowed to play for Caribbean countries. So it was stated we had to go play for England. And I played for England at under 20s in the World Cup in 97 and in under 21s. And for myself, in being a footballer and being able to play at that highest level and represent your country of birth, brilliant, because you're putting yourself with the best in the country and the best in Europe and in the world who you're playing against. And got close to sort of those senior call-ups for the national team of England, never sort of happened. And then rule changes allowed us to then split and go to parents' birth. And I made a decision to go and play for Jamaica. And that didn't last very long. It actually took longer for the paperwork to go through, just because of sometimes that's how the Caribbeans are. They just take long to do everything. But it was a little bit of Jamaican FA and with FIFA, but I eventually got sort of the last group game for the qualifying of the 2006 World Cup. And unfortunately, we didn't qualify for that, but still ended up representing Jamaica 3 times. And for myself, who didn't really grow up around my dad at all, really, it was still something of, yes, I've grown up with my Barbados side, but being able to represent from my dad's side, because that's still part of me. Yes. And, you know, that was still an honour in itself, being able to play and have the national anthem played. One, didn't actually play in Jamaica. That's the weirdest thing about it. The way it worked out was the first game I had was a qualifier in America. And my next 2 games that I did have were both in England. One was at Leicester, one was at Man United. So I didn't get that chance to experience playing for Jamaica.
Well, you gutted you didn't get the palm trees and the sunshine.
Exactly.
And
things. I flew out there twice to try and get the paperwork sorted out, and that was actually 2 home games that I couldn't play in. So I experienced what it was like, but not what it was like to play. But just being able to represent both is, that's what you want to do, especially at the highest level and profession that you're in. You want to try and achieve as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. How about for you, Curtis?
Long story again, isn't it? How long have we got? We'll get a few more coffees. No, I got a cap quite late for the Republic of Ireland. I'd had a chance. I'd had a call to Middlesbrough, where I was playing at the time, to I had dual heritage with my Jamaican father. They checked it up and they'd come back to me. But because I've been brought up in that Irish thing, I just thought, well, you know, I'm Irish. I felt really Irish in that, and I thought, I don't want to go and probably the experience of not knowing my dad in Jamaica. I didn't think that I probably wanted it. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So I didn't. So I got my cap, but I played the under-21s, but I was still working in Dublin and stuff. And I used to go to the Ireland games, and I always thought one day, and then at 22, I'm thinking my chances, I'll never play for Ireland. And then I got a chance to come to Middlesbrough real quickly, and then you're in, and then I waited a few years for a cap, but to walk out and that day and getting called up, I cancelled my wedding, would you believe? Honestly, I cancelled it. We were going, and I said to my wife, she was my future wife at the time, I said, I got a call, we're going to America for a month. We had a couple of games in Dublin, Poland, and Portugal and Croatia, and then we were flying to America's Cup in New York and Boston. And it's a hard thing to say, isn't it? But it's just like, wow. I says, but it's one of my dreams, and she understood that, and it was kind of something that you worked for and worked to, and she was quite understanding with it. So we had a quick wedding, and I went off, honestly, and she went on a honeymoon with her mate. Because I just, at the end of the day, it was just hugely important for me. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, that's what it was. And going back to the Black History Month, I had a few caps. I wasn't the best player in the world and stuff. A few black players playing at the time, but I knew the guy who wrote for the Irish Independent quite well, because he'd followed me through League of Ireland and always said I should have had a chance to play in the UK and play for Ireland. And I finally got there, and he rang me and he said, we're going to put a story out tomorrow. He said, we received some hate mail. And I remember him sending me the piece, and it was pictures of 6 black players that played, like Phil Babb, Terry Phelan, Chris Hughton, just like, Paul McGrath, he's an absolute legend and stuff like that. And the letter and the quote was, "Why do we need these? Why do we need these blacks to play?" And he put it out, fair play to him, he put it out and said, "Hold on a minute." And it was a great piece, but he just said, and we never thought of that. I thought when I was standing there singing the national anthem, I was living my dream, and I didn't think that anybody at that time would be looking at the colour of my skin. They didn't know me as a man. If they knew me as a man, they'd know I was the proudest man in the world. And that's what racism, I think, kind of promotes. People don't know you. They look at it, they make a decision about what you are, where you've come from, what you're doing, go back to your own country.
In the person.
I remember someone saying to me, "Go back to your own country," and I live down the road. So where do I go? Do you know what I mean? Where do you want me to go? If you threw me in the middle of Kingston, I wouldn't have a clue. I'd be walking around lost, So I found that, and that really got to me, would you believe? No, it didn't upset me. It made me a bit angry.
No, I get that, 100%.
Really, and I bumped into a couple of guys at different times, and I wouldn't be very outspoken about it, but I just said to them, "What are your thoughts on that?" And they were exactly the same as me. Not one of them came for anything other than to play for their country. At the time, whether you were born there, your mother was from there, and like Terry Phelan's mum's from Clare, County Clare, which is a music place, and I just brought up listening to Irish music. Do you know what I mean? She's like, "You will learn it," you know what I mean? And you will do that, and that was when.
How did you deal with that?
I didn't. I kind of looked at it, and I kind of took a step back from the anger and just thought, "Where's it coming from?" And it's a lack of knowledge, I think. It's a lack of education, a lack of respect, really. And I thought it's a real minority of people that will be thinking that we shouldn't have to feel like that.
And people don't think it's doing actions first and then maybe thinking about it. But how often is that after the event of, "I shouldn't have said that"? Well, it's too late. You've said it, and you're saying it for a reason and a purpose, and that's because you just want to have a go at someone because of the colour of their skin, and thinking it's only a laugh. No, it's never a laugh. You're saying it because there's some purpose behind it or something behind it.
So I think that was 97, I think, and 98, whatever it was. And it's still happening now. So you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing. And that's why I think Black history and education and everything still has to keep going. Because everyone keeps saying it's getting better. But no, there's someone feeling like I did on that day or someone did. But stop talking. Let's get to your million caps. Puts us to absolute shame. He's like, "You got your 3 and I've got my 1 cap here going, look at this." It was great. So sorry. Tell us.
No, I got...
How many caps?
71 caps.
71, okay. You're going to talk us through every one?
No.
That's it. Well, it started here and then it finished there. I
don't want to keep you here all night, brilliant. So, I started playing at Arsenal, and then when I was like 16, they were like, "We think you're ready to like go for tryouts with the England team, the youth national teams." Back then it was like regional camps or whatever. I remember going to one tryout and just completely like bottling it, just like
16.
Yeah, just nervous, just like,
isn't it? Yes.
It's almost like stage fright, isn't it? You just, you know, it's my big first experience of really like that structure of the game.
Yes.
You know, where things are super important. And I think I wanted it, it's almost like you want it too much that you just don't show up. But then I had another opportunity further down the road, like when I was 18, broke into the youth national team. Under 17s, got in and then progressed through the youth levels, and then made my debut with the senior national team when I was 18, 19. And I just remember just feeling like, wow, like I can't believe that I'm playing for England, that I have this shirt that I'm going to walk out, you know, and represent my country and, you know, my country of birth. And like my family was so proud. And I think it's one of them things as well. You always have that, especially if you've got dual heritage, a little bit of that, you know, feeling of like, you know, I had other family members going, why is she not playing for Ghana? you know, because I used to hear about Tony Yeboah and like George Boateng and
decent players, right?
You know, all these guys. And I used to love watching them play, and they were like, why is she not playing? But the reality was the women's game was just nowhere near as progressed as what it is now. And, I wouldn't have known who to contact. They didn't know how to reach me potentially. There just wasn't that framework for me to even consider it, So the biggest goal for me was always just to play for England, because that was where the opportunity was. That's where I felt like I could progress in my career and play at the national team level and get to major tournaments, which is like what you want to do when you play for your national team. And I just think it was an immense, incredible experience to play with top quality players, and play, like I said, with Rachel Yankee and Mary Phillip, and a lot of Londoners, Alex Scott. These players, they were my generation, and we kind of came up together, which was like even more special because we had a number of Arsenal players in the squad. So we felt like, we've been on this journey together since we were 14, and now we're here senior level representing our country. Like, it's massive because we didn't have that level of visibility across TV either, broadcasting, like to see, those players playing at that level. So to be one of those, of that generation, to have been in the game long enough to then be that player for other players, that you now have a Nikita Paris and these types of players showing up, I feel hugely proud for that, for sticking with it in a time where it really wasn't a professional game, but I just wanted to play for England so much. I would do anything. Like, you know what it's like when you're training individually in blustering wind and rain and it's awful.
You're trying to just better yourself.
But you want to better yourself because you want to give yourself the best chance.
That you can,
And that's what it was in my day. It was, you train twice a week with a club and you do everything possible in between to be ready for national team. And for me, even though it was hard then when you're young, because you're like, you got friends who are going out and they're doing all these other things, and you sacrifice it, but you realize how big it is and how much worthwhile it is, and I can look back now and feel like really proud because, you never saw that many black people at the elite level, especially in the women's game, playing in these competitions.
So with that, getting that call up, would that have been from Hope Powell?
Yeah.
I was about to ask that. I was about to ask that.
Role
models.
Oh, of course,
Getting that phone call from Hope Powell, who's leading the England team, it's, for me, that was scary. Knowing that I'm going into it with a Hope Powell, someone who's put the women's game onto that level.
And now I can appreciate even more so what Hope, the challenges that she faced, not only in her playing career, but especially as a coach, to be the head of the England team, the first black woman to manage an England team with all those pressures and feeling like, she wants to make the right decisions for selection, knowing that she's going to get even more kind of scrutiny.
Yeah, no doubt.
And eyeballs on her for things that she's done to better the England squad. And those days she was trying to manage everything from the youth team to the senior team, just to get it up to scratch where we could compete with the likes of USA and teams like that who were dominating. So I feel really lucky to have had a coach as well that was of black heritage, because I played the game a long time and I've not had many black or other diverse coaches or staff around me throughout my whole career, and I'm sure it's a bit like that for some of you guys too. It's
it is.
It has more impact than I think.
I think you appreciate it as well a bit later, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? Well, I go on to the. Will I? I think there's 42 questions.
I've got time.
What does being black mean to you?
There you go.
It's who I am.
Yes.
It's who I am. And am I asking to be different? No. Am I unique? Yes. Am I passing it on to my kids? Yes. And that's it. And I'm a black man who have got lots of different positive traits about me, who can put myself into different characters, different personas in a way of helping, supporting, nurturing those that are around me. And being black, yes, people are going to go, well, that's who you are. It is who I am. And like we said earlier, there's going to be those ones that are going to come at you because of who you are, which is being black. So what? That's what I'm proud of that. And I'm never going to back down from that. It's me. You don't like who I am, fine. If you don't like the colour of the skin, fine. I'm just not going to let that be something that's going to bother me. Come at me with something, then it's different. As we're responding, that's why we're here. And that is about the conversation. If you want to come at me for being black, well, why? Can you elaborate on it? Can you explain it? And it's making people be aware of it, making people be educated and understand it doesn't matter about the colour of skin. It's just about the person. That's what it's always about.
Yeah, for me, it's exactly the same. I think anybody that we meet, everybody we meet, anyone, without talking, without saying anything, not knowing anybody's history, the first thing you'll see with me is you'll see a black face.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that it means to me, that's what I am. And then everything else has been built into that. And it's changed over the years mentally, doesn't it? And, you know, physically, definitely, but mentally, because of your more understanding and education about everything and spreading the word. I think for me, I think the biggest thing is being proud of it. Yeah. You know, being proud of what you are, what you've achieved. I think there's too many stereotypes, negative stereotypes. Sometimes I think when some people see faces, they read everything and they have a story already and they've just looked at you. Do you know what I mean? And they're not willing to open up. And I think that's what Black History Month, and I think what we all do day to day. And, you know, we don't mean to do it day to day, but we're always doing something day to day, just explaining why and how and what we are and what it's all about. It shouldn't really come down to how we look.
Yeah, because we're all going to have different experiences.
There's no doubt.
Regardless of the colour of our skin. But because of the colour of our skin, our experience is going to be different.
Yes.
And like you said, sometimes you don't know anything about me because it is stereotyping, but it is walking into a shop and being followed.
Yes.
Or already being accused of doing something when you haven't done anything.
Yes.
And that's how it has been, being a black person, of being followed in a shop, that you can actually go and generally buy something, no matter how big or small, being judged because of sometimes the clothes you wear. So what? It shouldn't be an issue. This is my preference of wearing this clothing. Why should you be judging me or trying to stereotype me of that's who you are because that's what you wear it? And that's one of the things that happen in this world. If I'm dressed up in a 3-piece suit, where's he got his money from? Like, why is it? But it's not thinking, well, he's got a nice job. There's always a negative thought possibly happening in that person's head because of, again, like I said, clothing. Right? If it's a casual or a smart, there's always going to be some type of stereotype attached to it.
Yeah, for me, it's the same. Like being black is wherever you go, you're black. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to change. So it's about people getting to know who you are, the person, regardless of your background and all of that. But it's about being proud of who we are, and you know, resilient. I think a resilient group of people are black people in general. When I look throughout history, to be here to keep trying to change the way that we are perceived, or you know, people approach us and things like that, and breaking those barriers and those stereotypes and those biases. You've got to work
just as hard as everybody else.
Yeah,
so many times I've heard that.
Yeah,
that's got to work just as hard as everybody else.
No, exactly. And it's it's about, for me, it's not even about black people. We are unique in our own, all of us in our individual ways because of our experiences and how our own lived experiences. But it's making sure that people recognize that we're not just one big group, homogenous group that are all the same, have the same beliefs, have the same interests, have the same abilities like any other group of people. Do you know what I mean? And it's about celebrating all of that uniqueness in all our individual ways and our cultures and things like that as well. And it's almost like the rest of the world or society catching up to that a bit more. Because when you talked about the stereotypes and the biases and things like that, those are the things that we have experienced through watching television. Yes. Like everyone else, that's how people are educated in what they think blackness is. As opposed to what we know it is, So
do you think as well that the Black History, because it's Black History Month, I think it's got to be getting out the history of your race out there so people can look at it and learn things that they never learned, that they're not saying that they've never learned, that they've never seen.
Yeah, definitely.
So you think about, my mum was quite political, socialism, and she was into a lot of activism and that, but it was just kind of, there was the you know, we had a picture in the house, you know, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. There was a picture that was in London in the 1960s. So you brought up at that. I saw that was it. That was literally in the window in London. You know, when the Irish went over, when the blacks came from like, you know, from Jamaica or from the Caribbean countries, the Windrush and stuff. And you think, wow. You know, and yes, it's, you know, has it got better? But it's the ideas of why did that happen? How did that happen? Did people even know that happened? Right. And then you go back then to slavery. And people are talking about slavery, you know, and you think, hold on, you know, that's where a lot of our heritage will end up coming from and being, you know, and I think that's has to be brought in, not just about what slavery did with finances and everything like it's economical and capitalist, I think. But at the end of the day, you know, there's black people taken from the homes and sold. And a lot of our heritage will go back to that. But is it, when we look how many people from that era, from those years, succeeded, who broke the mold, and, you know, who broke the mold and said, we did this and we did that. Not everybody was standing in change. There were different people that went, you know, against it and became, you know, economists or became politicians but I don't think we see enough of that. No. Yeah. And I think that for me, Black History Month should be more about celebrating, not just thinking, you know, really hard done by and it was terrible and we've done well. No. There's loads of good bits, there's loads of bits of strength and inspiring stuff. Yeah. I think.
It's like we said at the beginning about the role models, isn't it? The role models we spoke earlier about, they're the ones that have broken down the barriers for us. They're the ones who have been successful in a career that they've chosen, which has opened the doors, not just in our football world, but sporting world as well. And there's people that, like you said, in different areas of politicians, doctors, lawyers, that they're breaking barriers for that next generation. Similar to what we're doing now for young players, and it is celebrating those before us.
That's the history of that's a history of where we're from, and isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a huge thing. I think that's why people have said it's so important, because there's so many bits of history that's just like that. No, it's not.
Yeah, so linear.
It's not just that way. It's that way, and this happened and that happened. And
well, I feel like I'm still learning all the time.
Well, that's, I think it's huge. Yeah,
Black culture and Black history all the time, and being educated on those things.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I saw a film recently, Woman King, and learn about the first female warrior in Africa during the slave trade, but I never knew that. You know what I mean? Or Hidden Figures, the first woman to help them go to space was an African American. You know, that's the kind of things that we need to celebrate and talk about, and help our young people see that they can also navigate whatever they want to do. Do you know what I mean?
That's what it is, isn't it? And it makes the country better. Yeah. It doesn't matter, you know. We could go on all these, it's upside down, so this is Irish. Well, this I think it's very prevalent. What instances of racism have we experienced in football?
My first one, which I didn't actually hear, was playing for Wimbledon in 95. Won't name the team. It was an away game with a manager we had in Joe Kinnear, loved to wind up opposition fans. And I remember he was standing up and it obscured the view of people from behind. And they just started throwing coins towards him. So he just got everyone to stand up, just to really just get on their nerves. And then I got told to warm up by Joe. So warming up, call me back in, and then someone else went to warm up, and I've gone back out just to keep going. And then we've both come in, and he's gone, don't worry about what they were saying. And what were they saying? And he's like, they were just giving you some race abuse. I've given them some back. And I was like, I didn't hear it. And he was like, that's good, because you didn't want to hear it. And at that time, it was 18, I'm thinking, okay. There were instances where you've heard things when you're playing through grassroots with, has he got the right birth certificate? Look how old he is, because of size that he is, things like that. I'd never had it directed at me. But then in 2009, playing for Blackpool, and I'll say the team was away at Stoke, playing in a cup competition, and I was sitting on the bench at the stadium, and it was just towards the left, which was close to the fans, and all of a sudden, the guy just went bang, bang, bang. So, you know, you're thinking, I've just heard that right, so I've just looked. And then loads of people around. And then the steward that was sitting there, he's gone, don't worry, I've heard it. So he's gone marching off, he's gone upstairs to get his superior. And I looked at the guy directly, and it's because he's looked at me and he's just face to front, like he's gone, continue watching the game. But the thing is, my issue wasn't just with him. It was those that are around him that didn't say anything. And then I pulled it up. I was like, so you're happy for him to say whatever he wants to me because of the colour of my skin, and you're not, oh, but he doesn't come here every week. So that makes a difference then. Oh, he's not a real fan. So that's fine then. Because he's not a real fan and he doesn't come every week, he's able to say what he wants to. And then the stewards come down. So I'm there with the steward, and the steward's actually got the person. And at the time, Ian Holloway was our manager. As he's come, found out what's happened, went absolutely mad. Game's going on. He's forgot the game for about 10 minutes, and he is just at everybody who's within that vicinity. And half time, he's gone and told the ref, and at the end of the game, I've had to do a statement. And the guy got banning order and loads of things that happened to him. And I got an apology from the club, which was fine, and now they're all stamping down on it. But that's the thing of when it does happen, I think you do have to name and shame, and people have to be held accountable. What was his background? I don't know. Is it something where he thought it's just a throwaway comment I can say? Is he educated, uneducated? Don't know. But it's more important that it's the ones that are around are the ones that speak up as well. Because if you're being quiet about something being said, you're just as involved in it as it was. And that's sort of the two sort of major ones that I've...
Isn't it brilliant that Ollie
he was
strongly about it?
Yeah.
And I think that's...
Oh yeah, and then when he's got to be in his bonnet, he's gone, and like I said, he's got an apology from the club. He got his ban. You know, what would that look like today? Even though that was in 2009, what would it look like today? Yeah. But you would hope with more people understanding and realising what this month, what the purpose is about, that everyone will stand up and go, do you know what, it was him. It was him. He's the one that, rather than everyone sort of not wanting to get involved in it. I think. But
why they think as well, Euell, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's good. Anita, that's someone, because we're unhappy with this.
Yeah.
We don't condone this. We don't happy with that. Not because he plays for my team. Yeah. Not because he plays for my team. He's got my shirt on, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think everyone keeps talking about racism, but it's what's acceptable in society, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
So it's, you know, I remember growing up in Dublin as a kid, and you'd hear, you know, some of my friends, young, would say things about black, and they go, oh, but you're all right.
Because you're one of, because you're one of us, or you're our mate. Yeah.
Sure. You know what I mean? Is that okay?
I didn't mean you.
Yeah, I didn't mean you. No, I meant, you know, and you're like, what? Do you know what I mean? So it's absolutely crazy, isn't it? But again, it's people that don't. There's people standing up, I think.
That's it, yeah.
I think allyship is massive.
Yes.
You know, like having people, like you say, that step in those moments and actually also lift that kind of emotional burden from you. Yes. Because if you're the victim, is the target of abuse, sometimes it's hard to be the standalone figure to actually say, this is what's happened, or this is happening to me, or, you know, control. And also it's the element of control, you know, like you as black men sometimes having to control your anger for fear of not being, you know, also judged for how you react to a situation.
At times you're the victim and it's like you can't do anything, and you sometimes get more come against you and you're the victim. Where it's being a victim is, well, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Do you want someone to speak to? Are you okay? How often would you have got that? Probably not. Is that support around now? Yes, a lot more.
Definitely.
But should we be having support for racism? No, but it's out there.
I remember, and just talking about racism, my early one was in Ireland again, playing under 14s, 15s, and we were a decent team. We kind of won the All Ireland, so we were decent, but it was the only black player. But sometimes you'd play in this area called Finglas, and against Rivermount was the team that was kind of always up against us. But all the working men clubs and all the clubs open at 12 o'clock, and the games would kick off at 11. So they'd be looking for something to do. Honestly, it was just like unbelievable. And you go in for a tackle, and it was you black this, you black that. No one said anything. You know, our manager said, don't mind them. You know what I mean? Just they'll go in a minute and stuff like that. But some of them said it with so much venom that you're not experienced at that age. to handle that, and probably not having a father figure at the time was probably, you had your mother who was probably more loving, where the dad sometimes were a little bit, my mum was a pocket rocket, no doubt about it. She's Irish pocket rocket, and I would have, I think my dad probably would have been afraid of her. Do you know what I mean? But I'm just saying that. But to see a man of 40 years old, or 30, might have been even that old, because you're young at the time and you're small, saying those things at Venom from 6 foot away from you, I don't think anything prepares you for that.
No.
And you could lose your way. You could say, I don't want to play football now. And many people has that happened to.
Yeah.
And many great, English players have started off playing in the parks or did whatever, and have had a lot of racism and said, football's not for me. I don't want to be walking out and getting that, because I think it's a horrible, horrible feeling. And I think that's kicking on with that, playing professionally as well. When you experience it professionally, I think as a kid it was more fear, and I was really afraid. I always remember I did a school, we talked about racism in school, and I said to them, it was like, when you get excited butterflies, I got the fear butterflies where your stomach goes, you're nervous, you just don't know what to do, how to react, what to do. And I'm like, wow. And I think when you talk about history, that's my history. And we can share history. So you can say, Anita, I remember when I was 11. I remember when I was 10 and this happened, and this is how I dealt with it. I didn't have role models at the time to go to and speak to. Do you know what I mean? And I think then when it went into the professional football, I remember playing up at Roker Park, the old Sunderland game. And I remember getting coins thrown at me, and because the fans are only 6 foot away from me and stuff like that, and it was just, but they were in the terraces, they were all in that pack, and you're black this, you're black that, and the funny thing, when I think about it now, it wasn't funny, it was the captain of Sunderland was Gary Bennett.
Yeah, black centre half. Yeah.
Legend. Yeah. Absolute legend up there. I think it's just given him Freeman as the city of Sunderland. So it was okay then to call me black and go back to your own country and do this and do that and stuff, but it was acceptable. No stewards, no one said anything like just get on. And everything about John Barnes keeping the banana getting thrown at him and trying to keep it up and stuff like that. So I think it's still happening now in Europe. It's still happening in a lot of countries, and we still see in England it's still happening. Yeah. So I think like racism in football, again, I think we need to talk about Clive Best if you're a West Ham fan. Do you remember? Do you know what I mean?
Every club,
Chris, every club that, some things happen. Remember the black players that you've had.
They've experienced those things.
Get the history where they're from. Definitely. They might have an English accent, but they're not from there. Yeah. It's not the heritage. Do you know what I mean? They've been born there. Well, where's the mum and dad or the granddad come from? And I think that's probably why we love the game. Yeah. But because we can make a difference, we've made a difference, but it hasn't. We can make it even better. And I think the black history about football and about life, it's going to give kids a chance just to believe that. I can be Anita Asante, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's like that's happening at our job. Yes. Us playing football is our job. Yeah. Now, does that happen in any other working environments of that type of racism? Probably don't, but it seems like it's okay, we're allowed to, because we're allowed to give the opposition player abuse or the home player abuse because he plays for the opposition team. Well, no, because I'm not going to go to work and start hating racist abuse at you.
But it is a cross-section society, football crowds. So at the end of the day, if you think that's okay in a stadium, or you think it's anything is acceptable, that's okay, I'm at a game, and that inside them there's something.
Yeah, for sure.
That would say, so at work, it may not come out all the time, but it may be hidden.
Could be something that
it may be hidden that, people coming in for a job, you don't have to say anything, but no, you're okay.
Well, it's just like we said with football and society, it's a microcosm of society. But like you're saying, fans who come in there, they're all crossing all intersections and they have normal jobs, and then you're wondering, well, how are you at your own workplace? How are you with your family, your friends? You can come on a Sunday or Saturday and start directing abuse. That's where we can't continue to make some excuses within the game or the governance of the game to say, but what can we do? Or it's too difficult. It really isn't, because people buy season tickets you have more access to information
now,
than ever before when it comes to actually identifying people. And I guess, I mean, as a female footballer, I haven't really experienced, I would say, first-hand experience in my career, you know, but that's probably my concern with the growth of the game. It's getting more exposure, it's getting new fans, and we want to take the best sides of the game and learnings from the game to make sure that that doesn't become a feature either. It's not to say it hasn't happened, because I know there have been instances where it has happened in the women's game. Obviously, one of my teammates at England experienced that, and you know, it basically ended her career with England.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah, I remember,
you know, and I remember at the time being one of the few players to speak up on behalf of her, because I was like, I've known her since I'm 14. Do you think that she would be able to easily just say that this has happened to me, knowing the consequence of that action, knowing that you don't have necessarily the power? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what risk you're taking when you do that, and
that's
you don't know what support you're going to get.
About the victim of...
And that's the big thing.
Why is
what
the victim feeling scared?
So that argument where people go, oh, but they're using the race card, I'm like, how easy do you think it is to use? This doesn't give you any advantages. It's not a bonus.
No. But
You're not getting any.
It's a fact.
You're not getting any free passes.
But it shouldn't come down to that.
You're always going to have this with you, you know, when you've experienced those things for the rest of your life, you know. And, you know, listening to you earlier, Curtis, when you said you were younger, I'm just like, I can't even fathom being 14. And, you know, when you've grown up just playing football with your friends and you think you're all equals and the same. And it's probably the first time that you have that reality that people see me as different or as other. Do you know what I mean? And then that's massive, I think, for how your character building and how you feel. And that nervousness that you talked about, I think a lot of us as Black people can relate when you're in school and maybe they're challenging these topics.
Yes.
And you're feeling tetchy about it because it's uncomfortable. What, you know? But why is it uncomfortable?
Why should it be?
We should be able to have these conversations. You know,
and that's the aim of obviously what we want to achieve. Just from today, this month, it is, let's not make it an uncomfortable conversation.
There we go.
You go for it.
Cards.
Do you think football still discriminates against Black people?
That's a really good question, isn't it? Yeah. Because you can be very, very strong, probably in both ways. You can kind of be the ostrich and bury the head in the ground and say, I just want to, you know, it's going great and it's a lot better than it was. I think sometimes there's a hidden discrimination. If I'm, when I mean that, I don't know the word. I'm not articulate enough. That sometimes there's a decision made if you're a Black coach or a black player on what you can do and what you can't do. I think at times it's a lot better. I think there's a lot more understanding. I think everybody has seen that there has to be change, but I think change is an action. Mm-hmm. And I think the only reason we're trying to make changes is there must be something wrong. So if there's nothing wrong, people won't say that. Do you know what I mean? So I think then we have to flip it around and go, okay, why? You know, so if you're saying this, you know, everyone's equal on it, but you're going to literally go and spend, you know, a couple of million or whatever finding out why Black coaches aren't coming in and that there's a problem. Yeah. And it means that you've identified that there's a problem. So I think that's something. And again, this is, you know, Black history. We talk about sport. We talk about sport a lot in this because of what we are, isn't it? And that's why we're here. Yeah. Yep. We're footballers and we're coaches and we love the game and we want to make it better. There's no reason that we look at anything for me in a negative way. We can't be as coaches. When are we ever negative? When are we really ever negative? I mean, when we want everybody to improve.
To improve, yeah.
You may say something, but it's nothing. Everything is there to improve. And I think if there's a little Black kid in Dublin that thinks, I'd love to be a coach in England one day. Yeah. Would I have a chance? Can I do a chance? Well, you can see me standing on a touchline and doing it. And have I got the chances? At times I've put in for jobs and I haven't got them. And I think there has to be, when we talk about the Rooney Rule and we talk about everything like that in football, I think that there has to be feedback every time. Yeah. You know, and it's something, so if you don't get a job, there's feedback. How can I improve? Whether it's tough, it's hard, it's not. But if that's the perception that that if your black face doesn't get you as many job interviews or whatever, you have to ask, why. And I think for me, I've educated myself in football. I've educated, so I've gone to the highest level of education. Now you're working every day today, trying to be bigger. So I think there's definitely changes to be made. And the other thing I would say is that stop hogging the limelight is to say is that I'll never go down the route of there's no jobs there. There's not enough jobs. Never go down that route. I won't go down that route because I just think it feeds negativity to people trying to break that glass ceiling, to break that you think, well, he's saying, oh, it's not enough jobs and why don't I do this and why don't I do that? I would say make sure when you want to progress in the game that we love, make sure we're educated, make sure we know our jobs, make sure it doesn't matter what colour you are. I'm a black guy that happens to be a coach. Do you know what I mean? I'm always been black. I haven't always been a coach. Yeah. I'm not a professional footballer now because those days are gone. That's what it is. And I just think there's no doubt when we look through all the associations and you look through a lot of big businesses in this country, I think that history probably tells you that, the percentage of the people working is it doesn't work and it has to change. But I think that for us, as black coaches, I think it's very, very important that we don't shut that the ceiling off to a black young coach starting out now. There has no jobs out there. There's nothing. Well, I go and do golf. I'll go and do this. No, you love football. Why go that way? It can be achieved. I always think about Barack Obama. Yeah. I do. I honestly do. American Kenyan, I think, born in Hawaii. Yeah. And I think, when he woke up and he said, one day I'm going to be the president of the United States. And many people laughed at him. Yeah. Most powerful job in the world. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, if you work hard enough and if you're educated enough and if you're dedicated enough, I think you can get where you want to. Mm. And I think that will happen through the associations. I think it'll happen through a lot of big businesses. I think that those ceilings will be broken, but we have to show that they can be.
Yeah. I think when you said about the change with people looking at the industry that they're in or the workplace that they're in and understanding, hold on, well, why haven't we got X amount of black faces if it's male or female? Mm. And then it's, well, are we discriminate? People are now starting to look at, what do they look like as a company? Are they showing that we've got good people in the right places or the right people of colour in the right places? And I think is there a discrimination? Probably to a point. I think it's subconsciously there probably is that still around. Mm. But what you're saying about those glass ceilings, if we're able to break them and then we're able to get people in certain areas to help change mindsets and get them thinking about these are the experiences of A, B, and C. They can bring something different to this business, this company, this football club, this football team. And I think that's where it needs to be able to see people open their eyes a little bit more of how can we make our industry, how can we make our schools, how can we make whatever industry it is, how can we make it better? How can we improve it? How can we get everybody understanding what it's like through everyone's different experiences? I think because that's where it helps educate others, old, young, and in the middle.
And there is progress in terms of the conversations have been happening, but in terms of what you said earlier about action, that's the area that people, I think progress is happening too slowly. And for me, it's like what you said, internally, if you look at your business structure or football's massive, it's not just, it's the clubs, it's the governing bodies, it's all the stakeholders involved in that process. And if they're internally looking at themselves going, well, are we reflective of society? Do we represent women in here? Do we represent, diverse cultures? Yes. Are we getting enough people in the room that can give alternative views, ideas and solutions? That's how the game gets better as a whole. And I think that's where we need to, we want to see those changes. And like you said about the ceiling, having people who are visible like ourselves in these roles now, hopefully will allow, the next generation of coaches to go, I can go for it. I'm going to try, I'm going to do those things. But ultimately it's the processes around it, the hiring processes and things like that have to be to a fair standard, because it's about being measured by obviously quality of your work, but to the same level of like mistakes as well, you know, like any role, you learn as you go as well, and but feeling like I can't make as many flaws because of who I am compared to someone else as well is part of building people up and also providing the right support that they can get keep evolving themselves within their roles and their jobs as they go along. Do you know what I mean? I think
I was just thinking about your granddad there. Honestly, it came back to me there. Honestly, I was thinking of your granddad, you know, years ago, and you say, you know, my granddaughter's going to play for England. You're like, yeah, right, good one. But what has he done? He's broken a ceiling, or he said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do it. Do you know what I mean? And whatever's happened in your life or my life, something has given us that feeling or that kind of sense of being driven to achieve what we want. Definitely. That we know it's there, that we know we can achieve it. Well, I didn't see there's no Black Irish coaches, in the League of Ireland at the moment, or there was a couple, you know, coming through and having You'll probably get loads of messages now saying, there is 42 black coaches, but I'm just saying that I just think it's very important that you don't think that you can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, and something in there being, you know, someone said to me, you can go out the next under 14s game and not be afraid.
Yeah.
Because of the colour of your skin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's something you should grasp. Do you know what I mean?
Go for it.
At 16, 18, you go for your first trial. It's not a great one. Come on. You can go for it. That's what it is. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's, when I think about history, you know, you're part of English, you know, women's football history.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Definitely.
So it's fantastic, isn't it? So, but it is. It's wonderful.
No, it is.
Isn't it? And that's what Black history do. Enough players or people know about you. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. There's enough kids know about you, you know, and that's it. And so I think you should get a bus and travel around the country and stuff. Right, we got two more, Yuli.
Go. I'll go. All right. The theme for Black History Month is time for change, actions, not words. What more do you feel could be done? I'll leave that up there so you can see.
I think what we're doing now, the conversation. And like you said, is about not making it an uncomfortable one. I think it's people that are unsure come and ask questions. And that's if you are a white person and you're thinking, okay, well, how did that feel if that happened or that happens? Let them know, because there's probably that little bit of empathy that you give them is now all of a sudden is, well, I can relate to that in some capacity, because it's might not be racism, but I felt a certain way in the way that you've said something to me. Yeah. So I think it's that conversation of keeping it going and letting people understand and be aware of this is just our journey and our experiences, but outside there's others that are going through other experiences, and find out, if you can, of how they are. You know, what can we do to help? And it is the conversation. Yes, it's brilliant that you said, let's celebrate as much as we can from the history, not only for this month, but as long as we can, and all the time celebrate it. But the conversation, it shouldn't be an uncomfortable conversation. It shouldn't be someone having a conversation and going, oh yeah, the black guy over there, and they feel a certain way for saying, well, that's who I am. That's who he is. Don't feel you got to lower your voice a little bit because you're saying no, say it, because that's what it is. And I think that's the important thing. Keep the conversation going and let it keep going. Don't be afraid and don't feel uncomfortable about having the conversation.
Yeah, and it's just important, like, for people to feel like you want to expand your knowledge the same way that we do. I feel like I'm learning all the time still about Black history and culture and things like that. And, you know, daring to just go out there and find information and talk to people, and not always just expect that me as a Black person, I'm going to tell you everything or educate you on everything, because I don't know everything. Do you know what I mean? Yes. So it's like a process for everyone to sort of share in that as well, you know? Yeah. And it's almost that old adage as well of, like, if you're the smartest person in a room, step into a new one. Yeah. I think you could say that for sport across the board. If everyone in the room kind of sounds like you, looks like you, is educated the same way as you, then you're not in the right room. Yeah. Or you need to give someone a chair at table so that, you can elevate the business or elevate football. So that's what I think is really important to continue.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think the biggest one you say is education. Yeah. Because I just think that the theme of Black History Month is time for change. And I think it's changes. We've got to know the history, and we're not talking about just Black history. I think everyone's thinking it's Black History Month. We're talking about the history of the country, history of the world, history of everything, history of the UK, history of Ireland, and the contribution that the Black race is made to that. And I just think that's part of the history. And I think when you say time to change, for me, is you have to integrate it into the educational structure. It has to be in the history classes. It has to be in the school, because this is, we're still learning, aren't we? We're still learning every day. Every day we learn something. And I think, if you integrate all that in and you say, okay, what more can be done? I think the educational board and the people have to know that this is, if you want to encompass everything in the history and you're proud of your country, not just one bit of it, all of it.
All of it.
And there's loads of different nationalities, loads of different, ethnicities, there's different nationalities that have made a huge impact in this country, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Black. Yeah. And that's what History Month is, and that's why we're celebrating it. I don't think people tend to think it's kind of a covert, it's a Black, kind of, I don't know, militant group getting together saying, this is what we have to do for that month. I think every month should be Black History Month. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we shouldn't have to have it really, because it should be in a classroom, general life curriculum and that. And now we're just highlighting it. Aren't we? That's the right thing. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing, is that in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, there isn't a Black History Month.
For sure.
Because everybody's celebrating where they've come from anyway. Yeah. And they know that they've had a part in it. And I think
it's our history, isn't it? Yeah. Ultimately, because it's not like Black people lived in silos. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Throughout the generations, whether it's the 1920s, the 2000s, like we've living interchangeably together. Yes. And every part of that history should be shared and celebrated.
Yeah, you say celebrating where we are now, and it was, well, why did Windrush happen? Yes. Windrush happened to help rebuilding and help the NHS service, help everything which was happening after the war. So that was history in itself, and that some people will be on the negative side of it, but we're talking about the celebration. That celebration was, it gave opportunities for our grandparents, parents at that time to make a difference. Yeah. And that's how it should be celebrated as well. That's the change. That was the change of the moment here and at that time for what we needed for today.
Whatever was positive and negative within that is still part of the history. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And we have to confront history in order to move forward. Yeah. You can't just negate parts of it.
You learn from history.
You learn from it.
You learn from history what went well and what didn't. And I think that's the biggest thing. Last one, Jason Euell.
What barriers do you feel you have faced as a Black coach?
Again, I probably flip it over. For me, I celebrate, because I feel like when I coach, I'm not a Black coach. I feel like I'm a coach who happens to be Black. Yeah. And I think that when I walk in, I hope that people, when I come in to do a coaching session, and I go, here's a Black guy coming in to do the coaching. Here's a coach, he's not bad. And they say, who is it? It's the Black guy over there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a huge thing for me. I think, again, there might have been hidden agendas. We don't know. I don't know. There's no feedback, but I didn't really take them. I don't think I've lost my job because of my colour. I really don't. Have I not got jobs because of my colour? I don't know. I don't know, Yuli, and I won't sit in the room and think, you know what I mean? That's what it is. We're building, I think that may happen. It may not have happened, but I look at it, I kind of flip it, and I go, okay, I'm going to keep banging that wall, I'm going to keep banging that door, and I'm going to keep banging the ceiling and be as educated as I am in football, in life, and understanding and appreciating. Because really we're here because, we're three Black people who love football. Yeah. I love it. Do you know, we had an opportunity to play at a decent level profession, but would have played anyway. Yeah. You would have played anyway, Julia. You know, I worked in a clothes shop.
Level, yeah.
I worked in a clothes shop at 22. I'd still be selling clothes now, and I'd be going out. I'd be, you know, probably 4 stone heavier, and telling everyone what to do. But I would have played it because I love it. So I won't let that shade, my colour, and the lack of opportunities that people perceive out there. Yes, they may happen. You know, people are saying it does happen, but I really think that we got to go. No problem. Come on, here we go. Bring it on. Not stopping us, we're going. Yeah. So we're coming. We're going to be as educated. We're going to be as diligent. We're going to be as knowledgeable. We're going to be as, kind of, dynamic. You said, hey, it was a great word. And I just think, for me, I haven't really looked at it that way. I don't want that as a negativity to me. Mm. And maybe it has happened, but I can't tell you because you're making up things, in my mind. I lost that because I don't know. But I won't let it affect. I'm always black. We're always black. We know that. And I want to be the best coach you can be. Yeah. And you can only do that.
Like you said, are we ever going to know if we haven't had a job opportunity because of that? We don't know. I've always gone on the way of the learning side of it, trying to get all the qualifications I can to help me become a very good coach. But like Flem said, I do it because I love it. And yes, I'm black. I'm a black coach, loves coaching. And when I said earlier about the different characters and personalities who we are, that's us giving our experiences to all those players that we coach. And it's going to be a different experience for everyone that we coach because they're all going to want and need different things, and we want to help them and give them that because we want them to succeed as well. And we want those next ones that are coming through. They want to see us get an opportunity. And if we feel that I can't go no more, I'm done because I don't think there's another. What does that do to everyone else who wants to try and emulate what we've done as football players and what we're doing now as coaches? We want to keep helping them as well and keep helping ourselves, ultimately the ones that we love working with on a day-to-day because we want to be on the grass.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is my first coaching role since retiring. So for me, I can honestly say I haven't felt a barrier coming into it at all. And I think probably that's credit to the environment as well, that they just treat me as a coach. Yeah. I come in, I have the same enthusiasm, the same passion, the same will to want to make other players better and share the knowledge, that we've all built over our careers so far. And that's all I want to do. And if I happen to be a very good black coach, because that's never going to change. Every door I walk into, I'm still black. Then great, I represent the community, the black people in a positive way, and just show them the door, show them the way, and hopefully, us being in these roles will make them feel inspired. But also, one day there might be that person that's knocking on my door, ringing up my phone, going, "I need some knowledge, I need some help. How can I get there?" And that's really what it's about, is elevating the next person that is just as enthusiastic, just as passionate and determined to get there.
100%.
So we've discussed Black History Month, what it means to us, but it's every month, isn't it? It's really good, isn't it? And as you said, the environment of the club as well to do this and to let us have an opportunity to meet us and talk to us about things. I think it's been brilliant. So as you said, I think the environment definitely helps, doesn't it?
Massively, yeah.
So I don't know how we finish this. Do we tap glasses and go happy, or what do we do? I don't know.
Got to do a little dance.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, a little dance. Cheers. Cheers.